Welcome back to the class, everyone. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been asked many a time, both on Discord as well as different live stream chats, whether or not I'm farming Baylan or Galactic Legend Ahsoka. And the answer is both and neither at the same time. And while I realize that's a very confusing answer, I can explain. So really what this is going to come down to is not going to be about the overall validity of those two characters. In fact, at the time of this recording, we don't have Baylan or Galactic Legend Ahsoka's kits, nor do we really know how good they're going to be. We can assume they're both going to be very good because A, Ahsoka is a Galactic Legend, and B, for Baylan, he is going to be getting a specific datacron that is going to come out only at the first time of his event, so we know he's going to be very good in PvP, as we've seen with the Great Mothers as well as Padawan, Obi-Wan, who had a very similar datacron release. All that being said, what this is really about, it's not about how good the characters are or how bad they are, but this is going to be about my overall farming habits and what I'm using from an efficient standpoint to get the most bang for my buck in the long run, not just for these characters, but for other upcoming legendaries or signal data or everything else that is in game. So both of these two characters that we previously mentioned, they're introducing new marquees that are already in game, like Great Mothers, like Shin, like the Undead Brothers that we have up here, that are going to be required for them. And where really the rubber meets the road is the fact that these characters, because they're so new, they have a higher price tag. But to explain that more in depth, I want to bring up, and a lot of you probably already guessed it, that's going to be a spreadsheet. Some of you might actually recognize this spreadsheet from when we did the Boss NAS marquee or special marquee review, where we went and compared all the different methods of farming a character. I do want to review this just quickly for those of you who did not watch that, and even those of you who did, I realized there was some confusion on some of the numbers here. But basically, the whole point of this chart is there are about 7 different ways for you to farm a character. You can do the gamble packs, where you go in and you get like an average of 6 character shards, unless you're super lucky. There's the special marquee event, where you actually front load up to 4, 5, or 6 stars with those gamble packs, and then you're given the rest of your shards over the process of a week, aka 7 days. There are the method of farming through shipments, which you wait for the character to go to shipments and then you just buy them with crystals. It removes the gambling aspect of it, but it's still not a very good deal overall for the shards, but is more of a middle term as far as how long it takes to farm. There's double refreshing a character, and this implies that the character first has to go to a node, but then you are going to quicken that process by refreshing the node for 25 or 50 crystals every single day. And then there's the single refresh method, which is the same as the double, except you only do the 25. No refresh, which is just farming the character 5 shards at a time, assuming they are, or 5 nodes at a time, assuming they are in a hard node. And then accelerated is the same exact thing, except for you wait for the character to go to accelerated. Now, I do want to put a little bit of note in here because I realized there was some confusion last time we talked about this. A lot of people really didn't get why it takes 450 days to farm an accelerated character. And the whole point of this chart is to tell you how long it takes to farm a character from release, meaning a brand new character doesn't even become accelerated until roughly 365 days after they've actually come out, meaning that you don't get to start farming them until that amount of time. And then even when you do, it still takes like 80 or so days to actually accumulate all the shards, even with them being accelerated. So that's what these days over here represent. They don't represent how many days just the method, but how many days since that character was released does it take. That's also why shipments takes 45 days. In reality, it doesn't take 45 days just to go in shipments and buy 300 or 280 shards, but you have to wait for them to actually hit shipments before you can even start buying them. But anyways, you'll notice a pattern here, and this has been true for most of Galaxy of Heroes, that the longer you wait to get a character, the cheaper it becomes. And you will also notice that there is a huge bump and one particular level to the next, and that is going to be from shipments to refreshing a character once it hits a node. I mean, it goes from 22,000 crystals, which is about what it takes to get a character from 3 stars to 7 stars through shipments, whereas it only takes 4,000 refreshing that character. Granted, it will take significantly longer, and that is going to be important because Baylan's event will very likely be limited, meaning you have to wait either 3, 6, 1 month. We actually don't really know. The cadence on that has been very wacky over the last couple of years, I realize that. But at the same time, you're probably not going to be able to get him first time around if you go with these methods. That being said, not to like really rag on this a lot, but these are the only ones that are very free-to-play friendly. While if you are free-to-play, you can dip into some of the higher ones, you have to do so at a very limited rate. And I could just end the video here, but I actually wanted to back that point up, not just for you guys, but also for myself, so that I'm not cutting my shelf short and not actually showing the math behind it. So now I will take you over to the other spreadsheets here. So this one, for anyone who was wondering, this is where we got that 26,000 number for the special marquee event. That assumes that you front loaded pretty much up to 6 stars, and then you got the remaining 100 shards from the event itself. But furthermore, we have what is basically Calvin's crystal income per month. And what I've done is I've taken all the different crystals from all the different sources that I can get every single game per month and added them up to see, is this a sustainable method? Can Calvin easily get Baylan without sacrificing a lot of my other in-game resources, and then repeat the same thing when another legendary comes down the road 6 months from now when we get legendary Captain Panaka? We're probably not, but you know, boy can dream. Anywho, so what I've done here is I've added up all the crystals that I should be getting from GAC, and I put the word maxed up here for a reason, and that's because I realized the vast majority of players are not getting this. This is what it would look like for a very efficient endgame free-to-play player to get. I have brought in the averages for the win-loss and the bracket for GAC, and I've actually rounded up to like 5 out of 4 wins, or 5 wins out of 9 matches. But at the end of the day, you get about 15,000, or I get about 15,000 crystals from GAC, and then about 15 more from other areas for a total of 32,000. And while I realize there are a few other areas like Conquest, and I believe the Assault Battle with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon also have some, but they're really low numbers and are honestly negligible overall for the month. These are the ones that are actually going to make a difference. And the reason why this number matters, and this was not meant at all to be a brag, but 32,000 crystals is a lot for a month. The problem with that is when we go back to the number over here, right now, I am in a position that if I were want to go after Baylan right now, that would mean that I would have to farm Great Mothers, Merrick or Marok, and Shin all through very expensive methods. When we were showing the different types of methods and how much they cost in regards to farming the character, I would have to farm all 3 of them probably in the next week or 2 through one of these 3 methods. We don't have the official date on Baylan's release, but the fact that we already were given a teaser with all of the names of his abilities, I would imagine that it's 2 weeks at the most before he drops. Meaning that I would have to spend somewhere around 70,000 crystals to be able to get him. And while that is possible, we actually did this exact very thing with Jar Jar. It does require, along with actually, you know, not spending crystals on anything else in game, because that's what you would have to do to be able to maintain these 32,000. You wouldn't be able to do really smart things like refresh mod energy or refresh Cantina energy for signal data. But in addition to that, you would also have to have a giant hoard of crystals sitting around, which you can do. Again, we did that for the Jar Jar event. A lot of you guys asked questions for a long time, Calvin, why in the world are you sitting on 30, 40,000 crystals? And the answer was Jar Jar. I can't just repeat that over and over and over again. If you look in game right now at my account, you're not going to see 40,000 crystals. Actually, there is quite a bit right now, but I need to spend that on some signal data that I'm behind on for other requirements for these characters. So basically, all of that to say that while I'm not planning on getting Baylan or Ahsoka day 1, I am just continuing this process like I do with every single character, where I am waiting until the character actually goes out to their node, like Enoch, for example, and I'm slow farming all of his shards, and then refreshing it 1 or 2 times, depending on where the rest of the characters are for that overall package for the Galactic Legend, trying to get them up, because this is sustainable. And ultimately, that's what's most important about this, because there's a huge gap between a character in shipments and a character on the node. And I guess that will prevent me from getting Baylan the first time around. And while that is a bit of a bummer, this will allow me to do it pretty much every single time, so that I don't have to build up a huge horde, wipe it out, and then be kind of stranded and never really progress on any of my other fun relics like Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, who I was able to take up specifically because I had crystals to put towards signal data instead of just hoarding it up over and over and over again to repeat this process with legendaries. So that is going to be it for today's video. Hopefully that answered the question why I'm going for Baylan and Ahsoka at the same time, but also won't be getting either of them right away, and it has to do with my farming style, not so much with the character themselves. So thank you for watching. Until the next time, stay awesome.